Our next talk is about community. It's about becoming a better person. And as you listen to this talk, I want you to recognize that, like our speaker today, you may have opportunities to share an experience that will help other people. And always know that the WordPress community is better for your participation. Our speaker for this talk is Swaahili M. She is a 21-year-old WordPress enthusiast who believes that asking why enough times can help us decipher almost anything. She is perpetually lost, either in a book or in yet another theory that attempts to explain how humans think. So now let's hear more from our speaker, Swaahili M.
I shared this slide deck with 6 other people, and the first thing that all of them told me was that I probably should not have used Comic Sans right in the title. But there you go. While Comic Sans is a widely hated font all across the world, for millions of people, including some people like me, it sometimes acts like a boon. How, why, and what has that got to do with this talk? We'll see in just some time. Hi, my name is Swaahili. I am based out of Bangalore, India, and I'm 21 years old. I'm from the team behind 4 successful WordPress plugins: Blog Vault for backups, Malcare for security, Migrate Guru for flawless migrations, and our most recent acquisition, WP Remote, which is a complete website management solution. This is my story of how I went from being a hyperactive college kid to being a full-time content marketer, with help from the WordPress community and by focusing on my mental health. Let's get started. Let's start with some context. So I used to be a weirdo in school. I was that weird kid, the kid who talked to her own hand when she got bored. I was that kid who tried to invent her own language because she was bored. Everyone who met me told me that I had a lot of energy. But as a child, it didn't seem like that big a deal to me or my parents or to anyone around me. So we let it be and thought it's just a phase. The first time I heard the term ADHD was in a YouTube video in the year 2016, which ironically I skipped because I found it boring. It wasn't until 2018 that I realized what it is. My college counselor explained to me about what ADHD is, and from whatever I had told her about my experience and my life, she told me that I probably had it from a very young age. But even during college, ADHD did not seem like that much of a challenge. It only hit its peak for me much later. But wait, let's backtrack. What is ADHD and why am I even talking to you about this? ADHD is a mental health disorder that includes a combination of persistent problems, such as difficulty paying attention to things, hyperactivity, and impulsive behavior. In adults, ADHD can lead to unstable and inconsistent relationships, poor work performance, low self-esteem and motivation, and ultimately, it can also lead to a lot of other mental health problems. Now, while I was in college, none of this really affected me as much, probably because there was no need for me to think very in-depth or focus as much in college as I have to do now in a job. But things started worsening when I started working. The first month of work was quite blissful because I was still getting myself acquainted with the product and just getting into the rhythm of things. But from the second month onwards, it was very clear to me that things were getting bad. I was actually expected to work. And as someone who had just passed out of college, I definitely wanted to prove myself. I wanted to take life by the horns, if you will. But here's the thing, if you don't prepare properly, those horns can really, really hurt. I started taking up a lot more work than what I could manage, what I could do. And considering that I was just starting out, all of that work took me much more longer than it would have taken anyone else. I didn't know things as simple as how to use Excel or how to Google things properly. And with my terrible focus as it is, I was unable to deliver and I was unable to finish tasks on time. This left me feeling extremely frustrated and demotivated. And what I didn't realize was that I was slowly burning out. In the course of this, the first 3 to 4 months of working, there were 4 things that happened. Let's see what they were. I got a reality check and realized that there were so many challenges in my first job. Of course, at the time, I didn't really realize that these things were happening. The first thing was having a loss of focus. I was not able to focus on one task at hand. The reason being because I was all over the place and there were so many things that I was trying to do. And unfortunately, because I wanted to please everybody, I did not want to ask for help. The second thing was loss of context, or what I like to call the professional why. Now, what happens in loss of context is that I failed to understand how much cognitive load it was taking for me to juggle between different tasks. I wanted to do everything by myself and I wanted to prove myself as the best. And every single task seemed very necessary to me. Let's say, for example, I was working on writing an article and my coworker asked me to share a document. I'd immediately leave what I was doing and get right on that. I would explain about it. I'd try to understand how I can help them work with that document. And by the time I got back to writing my article, I would have lost so much time. And of course, my flow of thought was completely gone. I'd end up panicking and just trying to get the work done because I had lost out on so much time. And what happens with that is that it reduced the quality of my work simply because I was putting lesser thought into it. And I was definitely panicking. The third thing that I realized was happening was having a loss of perspective. Now, because of how overwhelmed I was with the job and having so many things, I really did not get time for personal introspection. I woke up and my first thing was, oh my God, there's A, B, C things for me to do today. And then I'd go to work and then I'd push the entire day and try to get things done. And then I'd reach home late and I just wanted to sleep. But when I was sleeping, what was keeping me up? ABC. Because of this, I did not have time for myself and I was not able to really be in the moment. I kept feeling like I wasn't even there in that moment and I was just watching my life go by. So by the end of the third month, I was quite demotivated. And like I'd mentioned, I had a need to please everybody. I wanted everyone to think I'm cool and that I perfectly fit into this job and that I was getting everything done. But because of this burnout and all of this overwhelming, it ended up making me have a lot of self doubt. I started questioning myself if I was even worthy of this job and if I was even going to be able to do a good job and be an asset to the company. Here's a look at how my emotions and my behavior was at that time, personally and professionally. For one, I was extremely disoriented. I was very disassociated and very restless in doing things because there were so many things that I was trying to focus on. By the time I finished one thing, something else would distract me, and then I'd forget about that. And then by the time I got back to it, like I explained, I would have completely lost context and I had no idea where to even start. All of this left me feeling very disoriented, not just at work, but even in my personal life. The second thing was that I was having very inconsistent behavior. I was losing interest in things so fast. I was not able to watch any Netflix shows or even read books. Books was something that I've loved since I was a child, and yet I was not able to read as many books as I was usually able to. I had a lot of changes in my mood, a lot of mood swings. I used to get easily frustrated when things wouldn't work out, and I used to lash out a lot at my family. I also started becoming even more hyper. I used to have these intense bouts of focus where I used to get so much work done in just a matter of a few hours. And then sometimes I'd have days when no matter what I tried, no matter how much I pleaded with myself, I was not able to focus. And unfortunately, at that point, I started considering the possibility that it might be because I'm lazy. And maybe it's not just a problem with focus, but just me being lazy. And of course, that demotivated me even more further. And last but not least, I mean, this is already a given, but I had terrible focus at that point, not just on work, but anything else. If my friends told me something that was happening with them, the next time I met them, I wouldn't even remember, probably because I was distracted when they were talking to me in the first place. All of this left me very demotivated and not in a good place, frankly. Now, I'm going to take a pause here to ask you, have you ever felt like this at any point in your life? Have you ever felt like you don't know where you're going and that your life is just passing by and you're just a mere spectator? If the answer is yes, firstly, I'm sorry that you had to go through that or that you are going through that at this moment. And secondly, I'd like to remind you that there is always a way forward with problems like this. Which brings me to the next slide, how I decided to deal with it. All right. So the most important thing that I realized at the end of 3 or 4 months of working, it just got so much for me that at one point I said, you know what, I really have to do something about this. Here are a few things that I started working on. The first thing was to gain perspective and learn to be transparent with myself. There's a picture on the right hand side that I've attached here, which is something that really speaks to me, which is the power of perspective. I'm just going to read it out. I used to live within my own feelings. I became exhausted by identifying myself with my ever changing emotions until I realized that I could take a step back and have the perspective to see them as they are. What I'm trying to get at, and this was a really good wake up call for me at that point. What I'm trying to get at is that I realized the importance of being mindful and transparent with myself. If I was not able to admit that things are wrong, that things are not going as well as I wanted it to be, there was no way I was going to improve from there. So every time I felt like I was spiraling, or like, or I'm losing focus, or I'm about to get overwhelmed or feel anxious, I took a minute to talk to myself. I started checking in with myself. I made sure that every hour, no matter what, I checked in with myself. And when I say checked in with myself, it was a very simple thing of just checking in, asking myself, what is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What is it I want to do? What's the number one thing I want to do right now? The blatant transparency between me and myself pushed me to be more mindful in other things as well. And gradually, my work improved, and I started thinking about how important the work I'm doing is. So instead of putting myself into 10 different things, I started being more mindful and started thinking about the things that I'm working on, whether it was necessary and how much time it was taking for me. All of this led me to recognize things for what they are and understand my weaknesses and strengths and start playing accordingly. Which leads me to the next thing, recognition. Now, for example, I know that I get bored very easily, right? This is me talking about how to play to my strengths, by the way. So I know that I get bored very, very easily. And I'm not someone who can do monotonous work. I cannot be working on one thing for more than a few days. I'm going to get bored very easily. So I decided to be transparent with my boss and my colleagues and let them know that this is how I'm feeling. And for that reason, over the last year, I have been happily able to work on different functions. Now, the key thing here is that it can very easily become overwhelming again. So what I started doing was trying to group functions or aspects of work which were complementary to each other. For example, over the last year, I have worked on outreach. I have worked on writing. I've written content. I've edited content. I am going to remove that notification. Okay, just sorry, the notifications really bother me. Okay, there we go. So as I was saying, I was able to work on outreach. I was able to work on writing content, editing content, and building partnerships. And all of this go hand in hand, right? And that's what seems to make it work for me. Despite working on multiple things, since they all go hand in hand and they're interconnected, I'm able to actually move towards a common goal. Yeah, all right. Another example of how I decided to play to my strengths was I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping. This is something that I've faced from a very long time now. So what I started doing was observing myself more. By being more mindful, I was able to realize what my energy levels were throughout the day. I realized that I started off extremely strong in the mornings, and then by the afternoon, my energy dipped. And then by evening, my energy was up again. And what I decided to do with that was to tire myself out in the evenings. That way, my energy levels gradually dropped throughout the day. And by the time I reached home, I was completely tired and I wanted to sleep. So instead of doing a cardio class in the morning, instead of going for a dance class in the morning, I chose to do it in the evening. The second part where recognition came into play was recognizing when I'm spiraling. This is something I spoke about some time back. recognizing when you're spiraling. Now, I mentioned that I started, talking to myself and taking a moment to check in with myself. But here's the thing: I wasn't just checking with myself and sitting right where I am and asking myself these questions. I took actual breaks. I took a short walk. I went to the kitchen and filled some water for myself, or I took a walk and went downstairs and got some coffee, or I went to the terrace and just looked at the sky for a bit. Taking breaks can really help you recharge and come back to whatever you're to the task at hand. And a very important thing that I started doing was keeping a feel good memento close. This has helped me so much, and I genuinely wish that I had discovered this much before. Now, a feel good memento could be anything that reminds you that life is more than your current situation. For example, my favorite feel good moment is a letter that my childhood best friend wrote to me. It reminds me of how far I've come because she talks about our childhood and how we are now, right? So it reminds me of how far I've come, and it reminds me that people care of me, people care about me. It allows me to sort of just step out of my current shoes and look at my life for what it is rather than the current situation that I'm in. The third thing that I started recognizing and working on was respecting the dopamine. Now, dopamine is a chemical that mediates the pleasure center in your brain. It's basically released whenever you're in a situation where you feel good, where you feel pleasured. But here's the thing: pleasure is not just derived from food or alcohol or drugs, for that matter. Uh, Especially for minds that struggle with focus like mine, and minds which are constantly procrastinating, even something as simple as a YouTube video or a gossiping with your friend or a conversation with a coworker, any of these things can seem so enticing. You're working on something and it's like it's gnawing at the back of your head saying, hey, come watch me, or hey, come talk to me about this. But the problem with all of that is that you should not give into it. So, how was I not giving into it? By making myself learn the art of doing nothing. I think this is a superbly underrated skill, but at the same time can help a person so much. If you can master the act of sitting still and not doing anything, it can help you focus and just be at so much mental peace with yourself. What I started doing was meditation. What I'm trying to get at is meditation. Now, meditation has a lot of benefits, and one of the biggest benefits it has is that it helps you stay more calm. It helps you stay more energized throughout the day, and definitely helps with your focus. I started doing half an hour of yoga or meditation every morning. The second thing I was doing to make sure that my dopamine levels are in check was journaling. And I'm not talking about journaling right before I went to bed or just when I woke up. I'm talking about journaling the entire day. I had a little notebook with myself and a small pen. And every time I wanted to procrastinate, every time my mind wanted me to think about something else or do something else, or something was gnawing at the back of my head, I wrote it down. I wrote down the time and I wrote down what exactly I was thinking about. Now, that did freak out a few people, like my coworkers and people in the train, but it really helped me be more mindful. And honestly, at the end of the day, when I was looking back and reading about all the things that my mind wanted to procrastinate and do instead, it made me realize how much I should really just focus on my work and not think about those things. Aside from this, being transparent with myself and recognizing these things and working on it, there is one thing that helped me the most, and that is being a part of the community, being open with my friends, being transparent with my colleagues and my family. So let's look at community. I'm talking about the WordPress community, of course. As an ambivert, I really enjoy like-minded people, and I'm one of those people who's not always going to be social. But if I like you and I feel like we connect, I'm going to talk your ears off. That's the kind of person that I am, and I think that's why I love the WordPress community and I fit right in. Okay, I've noted down 6 different parts of the or aspects of the WordPress community that that have genuinely helped me out. The first one is WordPress.org. Now, like I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this, I don't really have a background in coding or anything to do with tech. I studied business and accounting, finance, marketing, those kind of things. So I do not have any background in tech. So when I was introduced to WordPress, of course, the first thing that I checked out was WordPress.org. And this site was absolutely fascinating. Even now, it seems like a candy store to me because there's something for everyone. Despite not being a coder and having any technical experience, there's so much that you can do to contribute and be a part of the community. You can help translate pages. You can help answer questions in the support forum. Even if you're not able to help someone out with WordPress related questions, maybe as someone who works for a plugin, I can help people out who have questions about our plugin. You can write for the documentation team if you're a writer. There's so many things that you can do just by being part of the WordPress, just by opening WordPress.org. That's all you need to do. And the best part is that everyone is willing to help. There are Slack channels set up for all the different functions that you can contribute to. And there are people in the Slack channel who can really guide you and tell you how to go about things. They meet regularly, almost every week. And just by participating in those conversations, you can contribute in just by maybe just being there. That's all. If that's all you can do, then so be it. But just being a part of it really helped me elevate my confidence and make me feel like I was part of something and I was contributing to something. The second aspect of the WordPress community is collaborations. Like I mentioned, I was working on outreach, and I'm also working on our PR and partnerships right now. By working on this, I was able to connect with new people every single day, and that has inspired me so much. How? And I probably sound a little over the top when I say this, but it genuinely has kept me really inspired. So what I did was I would whoever I was talking to, right, whoever I was being introduced to, or whoever I was having a conversation with, I made it a point to make sure that I follow them on social media and that I subscribe to their newsletters. This has really helped me stay in touch and stay abreast of the things that are happening in the WordPress community and learn even more and more. Half the things or hacks or the little nitty gritties that I'm able to do now that I did not know a year ago is because of articles that I've read, is because of newsletters that I've subscribed to, is because of things of people's tweets. There's so much I've learned just from people's tweets. And all of this has constantly motivated me to do more and more. The third aspect that I like to talk about is my favorite one, are WordCamps and meetups. Now, I myself did not attend any WordCamp so far. I was supposed to attend WordCamp Asia, but we all know that it got canceled because of the pandemic. So I haven't really been to any WordCamp myself. But that's the cool part. You don't even need to actually attend a WordCamp to feel like you're part of it. Now, my team, the rest of my team, actually, I think about 3 of them, they attended WordCamp US and WordCamp Europe, as well as Pressnomics last year. And here's the advantage of being in a small team. It gets, these kind of events get everybody involved. Now, I got to brainstorm and think about what kind of swag we're going to carry. I got to talk to vendors about T-shirts. I got to talk to designers and get things designed from them. We gave away fortune cookies at, I think, WordCamp Europe. So, I got to write the messages for the fortune cookies, and I obviously got to eat a lot of fortune cookies. So all of this, it just builds excitement. And I think everybody in our company was waiting for them to come back because we knew that they're coming back with T-shirts and a lot of cool swag. So and they were constantly in touch with us throughout the entire thing. They'd make sure that they video call us every day, let us know what's happening, send us pictures, tell us about talks that are happening, what they're doing, the lunches, the dinners, the meetups that they were going to. And it just felt so good to know that at least somebody from our team is there, that they're representing us, that they're meeting new people and building relationships. So WordCamps are something that really, really has excited me. And I was really looking forward to WordCamp Asia. But I'm sure that in the future, we will get back to normal. And I hope to attend a WordCamp physically sometime soon. But and like I said, despite not attending, I got to participate in it. And that's my takeaway from it. Aside from WordCamps, there's also a lot of meetups that happen. I think Bangalore has a very active WordPress community. They meet every third Saturday, and we've had different workshops where we got to learn from each other. And that's the spirit of attending an event like a WordCamp or a meetup, where you get to meet people and basically learn from each other, learn from each other's mistakes. And that can definitely keep you motivated, especially for a person like me who used to keep losing perspective of why am I even doing this. All of this really, really helped me stay motivated. The fourth aspect, something that's really close to me, is WPNUP, which is now called Big Orange Heart. So WPNUP is an organization for mental health in the WordPress community, specifically for WordPress professionals. Uh, you have uh, you have people from the community volunteering their time, as well as mental health professionals who can actually support you through thick and thin. You can chat with them, you can email them, you can they have a Slack channel that you can join, and they have a Facebook group as well. All you have to do is just join it, reach out, just make a small move, and then you can express yourself and seek proper help for any mental health issue that you might be feeling. They also have a very cool podcast which covers stories from all across the world. They've interviewed and spoken to so many different people, and everyone has shared their experiences, their journey with mental health, and how they came out stronger. Even me. So that's definitely something that I started listening to. That was one of the first podcasts that I started listening to. Like I mentioned, I'm more of a reader, so podcasts are a little hard for me to absorb. But that's the first podcast that I started listening to because I felt it was something that was easier for me to relate to and that I could absorb easily. And the best part about anything to do with WPNUP is, sorry, Big Orange Heart, is that everyone on this platform is kind, and very importantly, no one is judgmental. So having this safe space during the entire of last year where I was able to vent and talk, to just be honest about things and not get judged for it. That safe space really helped me to accept that I'm not alone and just make myself feel good whenever possible. The fourth aspect, something that I already spoke about, was podcasts. So, like I mentioned, I'm more of a reader. I would rather read an article than maybe listen to a podcast. But over time, I've made myself listen to podcasts. Instead of watching a YouTube video while eating my lunch, I started listening to a podcast instead. Now, podcasts are much more easier to absorb for most people. And it's one of the best ways to learn new information because most of the podcasts, especially in the WordPress space, how to do with interviews, how to do with how to sell stuff, how to get more clients, how to build a plugin. For someone like me who has no coding background, it was very fascinating to listen to podcasts which are a little bit about code because it's easier to listen to someone talk about it than open a course and get completely flabbergasted. So from I really enjoy listening to podcasts now. Previously, I was someone who didn't really enjoy those as much, but now over time, I've sort of conditioned myself to be able to listen to podcasts. And the biggest thing that I like the most about podcasts is that you get to learn from people's mistakes because most of the people there are just talking about their story and how they went from where they were to where they are right now. And because of their honesty and because of how open they are, you can very clearly learn from their mistakes itself. Um, the one, two, three, four, five. The sixth aspect of the WordPress community that really helped me out was Facebook groups. Especially in the beginning when I did not know much at all, Facebook groups was like a boon for me. So whenever I had any doubts that had anything to do with tech, that's where I used to go. Any question to do with WordPress, that's where I used to go. I knew that I could find an answer to it there for sure. But over time, being part, I've joined so many more groups now, and I've realized that the value of the community in each group there, because you're not just talking about WordPress, you're not just talking about tech related things. You can approach a Facebook group for pretty much anything. If you want to buy a standing desk, ask a Facebook group. You want feedback on your landing page or you want to learn about funnels, ask a Facebook group. You want to rant about annoying clients or people who keep asking you to make the logo bigger, rant on a Facebook group. You're going to get a lot of engagement from that. So just being part of these Facebook groups, and meeting new people, talking to new people, all of this has helped. But it's easy to say that. But now I'm going to try and break down and tell you exactly how it's helped, what part of this helped. When I say helped, what do I even mean? So, what does being part of a community even do for a person? Firstly, talking to other people, especially people that you're able to relate to and you're able to be honest about your situation with, it defeats loneliness. It makes you realize that you are not alone in this world and that you can. I think all of this really helped me realize that I am not alone. So that's what community did for me. It also helped me see the bigger picture. One of the things that I struggled a lot with was staying motivated, was having an understanding of why I'm even doing what I'm doing. But by being able to talk to people and being able to see what other people are doing, that really motivated me because it made me think, hey, you know what? I want to be like that person. I want to know that thing. That person's able to do this in 5 minutes, and that takes me an hour. I want to get to the point where I'm able to do that thing in 5 minutes. It helped me get more clarity on my own life. It helped me see a bigger picture of things because I think it's very easy to be in a situation and spiral. So just being able to talk to people and see a bigger picture really helped me get out of that situation, push myself out of that situation. And last but not least, making human connections can really, really help you ground yourself, especially for someone like me who's just starting out. It really made me realize that whenever I was in a very difficult situation or where I felt like I was spiraling, just taking a break, talking to someone, going on a Facebook group, seeing what people are talking about, maybe checking the Slack channel of WPNUP. It really made me realize that my current situation isn't the end of the world and that life is going to move on anyway. And that life is definitely not stopping at any point. And if it wasn't for these human connections that I made over the last year, if it wasn't for this amazing group of people that I can now proudly say I'm friends with or acquaintances with, I would not be doing this right now. I would not be even, I definitely would not have had the confidence to be up here and talk about something. When I first started, I knew that I had less than zero experience with WordPress and I knew nothing about WordPress. And I never felt like I had any sort of value to add. But just the very fact that I'm able to do this speaks volumes for me. People push me to do this. People encourage me to do this. So many people who have been in the WordPress industry for years, they've even just a few days ago, I was talking to someone with a podcast who told me that, you know what, you should come on as a guest. And my immediate question was, what am I even going to talk about? I don't know much about WordPress. I don't feel like I can add value to it. And he said, you know what, that's perfectly fine. We can talk about that. We can talk about how you feel just being in the WordPress, being part of the WordPress community, what it's like for you to give a talk for the first time. And just that kindness or that willingness to go beyond and push someone to do something, that that means the world to me. And it's really encouraged me to try out new things. And that's how I even tried applying for WordCamp Kent. And I genuinely didn't actually think I'd get selected. So I'm very happy that I'm doing this. I just did it for the heck of it. And well, here I am. So I guess things do work out at some point. When I look back at the last year, when I started working to this year, I know that the initial few months were tough. I reached a point where I genuinely was asking myself, should I just quit or do I want to wait until they fire me? That's literally the kind of mental situation I was in. But things have changed so much since then because I took hold of my life. I started being more transparent with myself. I started being more honest with myself. And I tried as much as possible to be mindful of what's happening around me, to check in with myself every 10 minutes. And with the help of all these lovely people that I've met in the WordPress community, my colleagues, our partners, people that we've worked with, the WordCamp organizers, event organizers, just by talking to all of these people, so much has changed. I mean, I started last year. I would say that I was struggling and suffering from ADHD among other mental health problems. But now it seems like I'm experiencing it. I'm not struggling or suffering. I'm experiencing it because I'm able to look at the situation for what it is rather than how it's affecting me. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has made all the difference to my life. That was my story of how I went from there to here. How I went from being someone who was completely confused and all over the place and had no idea what to do to someone still a little all over the place, but at least knows where to start. And at least right now, I definitely do not have any qualms about seeking help, which is something that I'm really proud of. So I'm going to leave you with a short cheat sheet. I know I spoke a lot. I'm going to leave you with a short cheat sheet that seems to have worked for me. So what is this cheat sheet, right? If you ever feel disoriented at any point, if you ever feel out of place or you just feel, I think it's a list of a few things that can immediately elevate your mood. take a look. All right, so this is my hacks cheat sheet, and this is something that I've also written down. So every time I feel like I'm spiraling or I'm going somewhere I don't want to be, I try to do any one of these things. Let's take a look. The first thing is 1 minute transparency. What this means is just getting up from where you are, getting to a place away from where you are, and just talking to yourself for a minute. Okay, this is not the thing I mentioned where I'm asking myself, I'm trying to get myself back into the work that I was doing. It's more of just having a conversation with myself, just saying, "Hey, hi Swahili, how are you doing? What are you feeling right now? What do you feel like eating today?" Remember that thing that happened yesterday? Just having a conversation with yourself like you're another person. That just that 1 minute of that can really help you, sort of lift you away from all the stress that you were in, and just make you realize that that's not the end of the world for you. The second thing I would suggest that can immediately alleviate someone's mood is lo-fi music. So let me see how can I explain this. Lo-fi music is basically music which does not have any lyrics in it. It's non-lyrical music. It's primarily instruments, and it's very heavily influenced by jazz. So this is the kind of music that people say can really help you study and relax. And if at any point you're feeling disoriented or feeling a little out of place, it can definitely just immediately make you feel a little better. The third hack, this is something I already spoke about, is keeping a feel-good memento close. Find that, that small letter that somebody wrote to you, or find that video of a friend of yours talking about maybe a memory of you, or whatever it is that makes you feel good, whatever it is that reminds you that there's more to life than just the current moment. Keep those things close. Remind yourself of them whenever possible. The fourth suggestion that I have, or hack that I have, is to lie down. I cannot stress how much this can help you. Just not even lying down, maybe just sitting in your chair and closing your eyes for a bit helps so much. Just taking a walk and just lying down somewhere helps so much. Put your legs up in the air and just sit there for about 30 seconds, and that itself can make you feel so much more calm. The fifth thing that I would say is a hack that I use is Comic Sans. Finally, we get to the explanation of it. Now, what happened? Why did what's the big deal with Comic Sans, right? So Comic Sans was originally developed. I think the main inspiration for Comic Sans was comic books. The person who created it took inspiration from comic books to create this font. And the idea behind creating this font, the use case of it was for kids, was to explain something. So despite it being very highly criticized, Comic Sans has been found to really help people with a lot of people with reading disabilities or dyslexia, for example. So this is a very this is a very small hack that I would say. But whenever I felt there was too much information coming my way, whenever I felt like there was too much of stuff in my head, I would just take a moment, whatever I was looking at, whatever I was trying to work with, put it in Comic Sans. Just the spacing of it and just the non-seriousness of it can immediately just make you read it a little better and just get a break from how things work. The next hack is doing a social media detox. I think social media can really impact the way you look at yourself and the way you feel about your life. It can go either way. You look at someone super successful and you feel motivated to be like them. But sometimes looking at someone successful can also make you feel bad because you're not there yet. It can also demotivate you. You can look at people who seem to have so many things or so much better than you, and you can ask, and you might just feel demotivated. So in cases like that, I would honestly suggest taking a social media detox. I've been making sure I detox every couple of months, where I just uninstall Instagram or just uninstall Twitter for like a week or so, and that just gives me a break from things, because it's very easy in the current situation to let social media dictate your life. The next hack is to get some exercise. Just getting a walk or doing a bit of yoga in the morning, or getting some cardio, doing a jog, or doing some dance, or playing a sport. Any of this, just half an hour of that during the day can really, really make you feel so much better. It can really help you keep it, especially if you do it right in the morning, it can keep you energized throughout the day, and can really help you focus as well. Okay, the next one is not really a hack, it's more of a suggestion. For For anyone suffering from ADHD or people who just can't seem to focus on things, it's important to know that you have to be creative and keep trying out new tactics. Now, all of these things I've listed down, I've tried multiple things to help me get out of spiraling or to help me focus with things. And these are the things that stuck. But I also know that if I keep doing any one of them for too long, it's not going to work after a point. That's why you have to be creative and keep trying out new tactics. I recently purchased a harmonica because that a mouth organ, which I keep very close to me whenever I'm working. And whenever I feel a little overwhelmed and I feel myself breathing hard, I just pick it up and I start playing. And yeah, that worked for about a week. And then it just didn't work for me anymore. So you have to be creative and keep trying out new tactics and keep giving yourself something new to look forward to. Keep trying out different things. Don't let yourself stay where you are. And the last hack is to not be afraid to reach out and make new friends. If you're ever having a problem, the easiest thing to do is just make a call to a friend. Is to get up, turn to the person next to you and say, hey, you know what? I kind of don't feel good. Tell me about your day or tell me about what you're going to do next. Let's just talk. Just take 2 minutes. Make a human connection with somebody. You have no idea how much that could help. Well, that was my talk, and that was the story of how I got to where I am. I'm going to be around for another 5 or 10 minutes. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to just drop a message right there, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Anything else that I wanted to say? Okay, there's one quote that really, really helps me, and I actually might just have, yes, I do. I have it written on a post-it, which I keep on my desk. It says, you don't remember days, you remember moments. And that's what I'd like to end with and leave you with. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Swaahili M, for that fantastic talk. Unfortunately, our speaker is not able to join us for live Q&A due to internet problems. But as you've probably seen by now, there's some love in the chat for lo-fi playlists and also for cheat sheets. There's so much to unpack from her experience. And there's just one thing I would like to leave her audience with today, and it's that point that you are not alone. You are especially not alone in the WordPress community today. If you have questions for Swaahili M, please head over to our Slack workspace and you can ask your questions there. She will be available to communicate with you there. If you have feedback on the talk that you've just seen, please stop by our website for WordCamp Kent and use the feedback selection at the main menu. Thank you for being at our talk today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.